Hello there. I want to talk about an oilstone progression, a true oilstone progression on straight razors. A lot of people, I would dare say probably most people that hone straight razors, hone with either synthetics, and they will go all the way through to a 12 or a 20 or a 30K Waterstone. That's what I mean when I say synthetics. Or they'll go, up to a certain point with Waterstones and then move to synthetic Waterstones, rather, and then move to something like a Japanese Waterstone or a conical or whatever, some type of natural stone to finish. But it's rare nowadays to see people doing a full oilstone progression. It's on YouTube, but it's very rare. I did one of these before, but I have better camera gear and stuff like that now, and I want to redo it. And so what we're going to do, we're going to go from an India medium. A fine would be a better job as a bevel setter for a straight razor, but I have a medium. That's what I have, so that's what I use. I might talk a little bit about this stone and stones like it in another video. And then we're going to move to a soft Arkansas, and then on finally to a black, and this may take a couple of videos, or we may do it in one. We'll find out. Or I may do it in 3 for each stone. But so what we're going to do is we're going to start with the medium India Oilstone. This is a synthetic stone. This is a Norton. You can get them. I'm using soap and water. You can get them from a lot of different places, but the Nortons are very inexpensive, and in my opinion, it's worth that. What I've got is a gold dollar. I think it's a gold dollar 2000, but I'm not sure. I can't keep the gold dollar straight. It's a gold dollar. And I'm going to take this. This is a shave ready razor, and I'm going to kill that edge. And what we're going to do is we're going to set this bevel on this India. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a heel forward or heel leading stroke and use a bit of torque. And the scales on these razors, this razor needs to be peened because they are a bit too loose for my liking. But we'll roll with it. And you can produce a very fine edge on a straight razor with oilstones. Most people I watch a lot of a guy called Rough Rooster Knife Sharpening, and he says one of his things is that he says a lot of people think that these oil stones are outdated. So people don't want to fool with them. They take a little bit longer. And that people don't really want to fool with them because they're slower. Well, I would agree with that to some extent because nowadays people just, they want what they consider the best, and with the water stones, they get, look at edges. Almost back. With a water stone, they get speed. Yeah, it needs a little bit right there at the heel. With a water stone, they get speed as well as fineness, and so a lot of times that's what people use. But these stones are a joy to use in a lot of ways. And you're really missing out, in my opinion. If you like natural stones, particularly when you get into the Arkansas, there are natural stones that have a huge history. They're mined here in the United States. Now see what I did. If you watch, let me put a little bit more liquid on there. Maybe you can see. Watch the water as it rolls over the edge. You see how it's coming here to here? Now, if we go back, you can see it's doing the same thing on this side now. Before, it would start here and it would roll up, and it never would come over that edge. So I wasn't getting the whole edge. And I've almost got it now, but I'm going to give it just a little bit more. With these stones, because they're oil, and I'm using soapy water, but it's kind of slick. That's lovely. So you want to keep beautiful. You want to keep a cloth nearby so that you can dry off the tang and stuff like that so that it doesn't get real slippery and cause problems. That's a non-issue to me. It's kind of like when people say, well, they don't like small brushes, short brushes, whatever, because they get the soap on their hands when they load the brush up. Well, dude, you're sitting right next to, or standing right next to a sink. Rinse your hand off. To me, stuff like that is a non-issue. But your mileage may vary. I'm certainly not knocking anybody's preferences. If you prefer a larger brush, and that's one of the reasons why, then that's fine. It's none of my business. I don't have any dog in that fight. I just think that sometimes we whine. Well, not really whine. Sometimes we complain about things that are really not that big of an issue. And like I said, not knocking anybody, and I promise you there's something that I do or that I complain about that is similar. So, but there are practical solutions to a lot of things, and they don't necessarily have to cost you more money to fix. That's lovely. Beautiful. Well set bevel. I did a thumbnail test, and I know people don't say this. They just tell you don't do the thumbnail test after you get off the bevel setter. But anytime I do a thumbnail test, I give it about 20 passes. Back on the bevel setter. Just in case I damage that bevel with my thumbnail, I'm gonna do my very best to make sure that it recovers well enough that I don't have to worry about it. What I'm gonna do now, this should be a habit. Well, let's do it. What you want to do with an oil stone, any oil stone, wipe that oil stone clean, put fresh lubrication, whatever it is you use. That's my knee bumping against the cabinet there when I make this motion, so I pulled it away. Sorry, fellas. I don't even know if you heard that. Sometimes my microphone picks stuff up and sometimes it don't. But anyway, you want to rub that in there real good because it helps to pull stuff up out of the surface of that oil stone so that you can get it clean. And what I will do with this and all of the oil stones that I'm using, once I get done with this session, is I'll put them under warm water and put a lot of soapy water on them and take a stiff bristled nylon brush and scrub these stones. That's how I deal with it. I'm going to wipe this soap off of this, and we're going to move on to the soft. And what I'm going to do, I have a coarse side and a finer side, and I'm going to start on the coarse. What we're going to do, I'm using just a bit of forward torque. And what I'm doing here, I'll start on this coarser side. The natural progression that I would do if I had it on oil stones with a straight razor would be that India, this soft, a hard, and then my black. But I don't have a hard. I really would love to have a hard Arkansas, an 8x2 or an 8x3. Or even a 6x2 or a 6x3. Really love to have it so that I have the progression that I really want, and I really think is appropriate to a straight razor if I'm going to use Oilstones to hone them. But I don't have that right now, and eventually I probably will get it. But every time I go to do that, there's always something else that I think is more important or more appropriate for me to spend my money on. Just like everybody else, we got hard-earned cash, and you got to spend it wisely and all of that. But so what I do is I have this surface that is coarser, and then I've prepped the soft on the other side for a finer finish, and I will go there here in just a few more strokes actually to kind of simulate that hard art, moving from a soft to a hard. It's not actually the same thing, but it works for me. Alright, you have to watch sometimes with the soft. Arkansas is, if the stone is not clean and it's not prepped properly. Now this is prepped rough, but it's prepped correctly. Okay, the whole surface is the same. I took my time to make sure everything was even on the surface of this stone, even though it's at a lower grit or a rougher finish. It's smoothly done. And so if you've got dirt on your stone, if you've got a stone, sometimes with the soft ox you can get a stone there's porous anyway, but you can get a stone that's so porous that it has like pits and gaps, and I'm not sure how to describe it, but you'll know one when you see it. That can tear the living snot out of the edge of a straight razor, and so you want to watch for that. If you start getting stuff like that, then you need to prep the surface differently or more thoroughly, or you need to consider possibly a different soft. That's my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. I know there are people out there that will argue that fact. Don't care. That's my experience. Whatever your experience is your experience, and I can't tell you that you're wrong. Alright, this is the more prepped side, the more I guess it's burnished. So I'm going to go to this side now, and I'm doing a light torque now, a much lighter torque. And you notice there's not a whole lot of lubrication on this stone. You want to keep some on there, but you really don't need a huge amount. Just enough to keep the stone from loading it up. Look on that heel again. And I'll say it again. I've said it before. There's nothing like honing something to relax. At least I know for me, this is a really relaxing thing to do. Okay, now we're going to move to a black. And this black, normally I would just use water. You got an ant crawling around, you need to go away. Alright. I'm going to have to put some more little bait traps out, it looks like. Because that's not the first one of those that I have seen. Little booger. We're going to go ahead and start the finishing process. And what I'm going to do, I am using a bit of torque. And you can see, I don't know if you can or not, but the water is rolling up over that edge all the way now. There is no problem with that heel, hitting that heel. But I will check as I get on into this. With the loop. And if something changes, if I see that I actually am not hitting that, well then I will go back and do the same thing I did on all the other stones to make sure that I hit that. Okay, my camera shut off in the middle of all of that. I don't have a clue what part of that I got and what part of that I didn't, so when it comes time to edit this video, that's something you will have to understand as well. I'm gonna rinse this off now and go to plain water. No torque. You saw that pause that I just made? Well, I felt as I was flipping that razor that it was fixing to slip. And on an Arkansas, particularly on something like a true hard, a black, a translucent, you got room to mess up once. Well, you don't have any room. Mess up once and you're done. You got to go back. So make sure you present that razor perfectly, or you're done. Alright, we've got our fire hose strap here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to switch this out. Actually, I'm going to leave this on here just because I want a place to hold it. And I'm going to move to leather. We're not running a race. We're not showing off. And another thing that I'm doing, that heel, I know I had a bit of trouble with it, so when I'm strapping, I'm actually putting a bit of pressure on that, bit more pressure on that heel sometimes. Razor stropped, it's ready to go. Now I would test it on a hanging hair test if I wanted to, or just go ahead and do a shave test, and everything, if everything is good, then we know we got a good edge, and if it's not, we know we did something wrong. But that's all it takes. And you can get a really nice progression, a really nice edge off of an Oilstone progression. Thanks for watching. Later.